Before this video starts, I'd like to remind you that this is part 1 of 2. If the second part isn't up yet, I recommend subscribing and checking it out when it finally drops. Alright, on with the video. Toy Story. You know, for a company that owns as much as Disney does, and they own a lot of cool stuff, they don't own a lot of perfect franchises. Let me explain. A perfect franchise, to me, isn't a franchise in which every single movie is flawless, but it's a franchise in which every movie feels like it adds something, and every movie feels like it matters and doesn't contradict the other. Now, I was talking to someone at a bar before everything locked down about movies, and we came to the conclusion that there aren't a lot of perfect franchises. We both agreed that Star Wars isn't a perfect franchise because it has too many inconsistencies and some bad movies, even though we both absolutely adored it. We both agreed the Marvel Cinematic Universe isn't a perfect franchise because it has some movies that are so easily skippable, and some movies are just not very good. So, does this perfect franchise we're after even exist? Is there a franchise of movies that may not all be flawless, but all complement each other perfectly and can be watched as an entire saga without feeling disjointed? Yes! In this two-parter, I'll be reviewing and ranking every single Toy Story movie. This video, I'll be focusing on the first two Toy Stories, and for Toy Story 3 and 4, you're going to want to stick around for part 2. Now, firstly, let me start off by saying that I really love these stories. All 4 of them, actually. I have my issues with every single one of them, and I'll get to that soon. Just like probably many of you watching right now, I grew up with these characters and stories. Pixar always had that thing that I was looking for as a young kid. But unlike most movies I used to enjoy when I was a kid, Pixar movies generally stuck around in my memory longer, and I appreciate them more now than I did then. Of course, a movie being made by Pixar doesn't automatically mean it's a good movie. In fact, I think Pixar has some real stinkers under their brand, but Pixar movies generally feel like they were made for both kids and adults. So let's dive in and see what makes these 4 movies so special. So, in 1995, Pixar released their first full-length feature film, Toy Story. And after a long, difficult production with many rewrites, they had found a story that worked. I don't know if the team working on Toy Story back in the day had any idea that it would become one of the most beloved movies of all time. Let's first have a look at the visuals. The movie looks pretty great for a movie made in 1995. I think the dog and some close-up shots of the humans look kinda dodgy, but most of the movie being centered around toys should help us distract from that. And it does. The movie is also very clever in the design of its world. See, unlike a movie like Cars, where the fact they're cars has nothing to do with the world they're in Toy Story, the environment they're in matters. Now, if I had to describe this movie in one word, it's clever. The movie comes up with many things toys do and why they do the things the way they do those things. They're not just small people. They have unique abilities that come to mind when you think of that type of toy. I love how Rex is made out of cheap plastic, so he comes off as not very scary and kinda insecure. Also, this line that many people now use in their day-to-day life came from this movie.
You uncultured swine!
The basic plot of the movie introduces us to this world and our characters. And at the central conflict of the movie are Woody and Buzz Lightyear. Woody has been Andy's favorite toy since kindergarten, but when Andy finally gets a new toy with more features, Woody's first place spot as favorite toy gets taken away from him. Of course, Woody has trouble accepting this and ends up accidentally pushing Buzz out of a window. Now, what makes all of this entertaining is that Buzz thinks he's a space ranger. He thinks he's the Buzz Lightyear, while he's actually just a toy based on the popular sci-fi movie or show or whatever it is. Now, over the course of the movie, we see Woody and Buzz becoming friends. The moment when Buzz finds out he's a toy is actually pretty damn sad for a relatively primitive CGI animated movie from the 90s. And when Woody finally admits to being jealous of Buzz, Buzz decides to help Woody, and the two have officially become friends. This was the beginning of the now iconic, unstoppable duo of Woody and Buzz Lightyear. For kids, the movie has a lot of lessons in it, from learning to accept apologies and to apologize yourself to dealing with jealousy. But the movie also has plenty to chew on for adults. For example, the extremely clever jokes, some funny lines.
Excuse me, I think the word you're searching for is Space Ranger.
The word I'm searching for, I can't say, because there's preschool toys present.
Some genuinely great character development and some hilarious Star Wars references.
Right now, poised at the edge of the galaxy, Emperor Zurg has been secretly building a weapon with the destructive capacity to annihilate an entire planet. I alone have information that reveals this weapon's only weakness.
But no movie is without its flaws, so let's discuss some of those. It makes no sense, okay, it makes 0 sense that if Buzz believes he's a real space ranger, that he would just lay down and play like a toy when Andy's around. Like, you may be able to make an argument that Buzz is just doing Woody sees the rest do just to fit in, and sure, you can keep that in the back of your mind while watching it, but it's indeed just a flaw that this just isn't explained in the movie. One other flaw, which I actually think is more charming than flawed, is the sometimes over-animated character movements. In the later Toy Story films, the characters move in a very realistic way. In this first installment, because CGI was still very new, sometimes Woody is hilariously over-animated, like he's some sort of cartoon. But this kind of gives the movie a cool, cartoonish vibe to it that the later movies just don't have, so I'll take it. I also think it's pretty funny how Sid is basically traumatized for life now, and I mean, if he had known toys were alive, would he still have tried to blow them up and stuff? I don't know, but the movie does at least show us he's not a very likable kid in general, so I guess we're kind of okay with it. The music in this movie is also excellent. And yeah, sure, we have the now iconic and very jazzy You've Got a Friend in Me, which also has a super cool chord progression, by the way. But Randy Newman brings his jazzy style throughout the whole movie, giving us some very cool and unique songs for a movie soundtrack. Another thing I noticed while rewatching the movie for this review is that it has a really, really great sound mix. The bass really fills the room in the moments when it needs to, and even shakes the furniture a little. Very cool. Many moments really have that nice, impactful feel to them due to its fantastic sound mix. Now, I don't know if the version I have is a modern, remastered sound. It probably is. Maybe someone in the comments can let me know. The version I have is the 3D Blu-ray re-release. Furthermore, the movie is nicely paced. Nothing really feels like it drags on for too long. Nothing really feels rushed either. The movie just kind of flows nicely from scene to scene. And there is a bit of real tension here, although the tension element was definitely improved upon in later installments. So, all things considered, I think Toy Story is a damn solid movie that kicked off a great four-movie franchise. It adds some parts that don't really make perfect sense, but they're easy enough to overlook when the movie is just so entertaining. If it wasn't obvious yet, I really like this movie. So Toy Story gets an 8 out of 10. Now, next! So, how do you follow up such a clever and fun animated flick that seemed to be a one-off? Well, with way more cleverness and humor. My god, Toy Story 2 is like a perfect animated comedy. This movie is so incredibly clever, and it's definitely among there with Pixar's best. See, the same way that Coco is like the perfect animated, emotional movie, Toy Story 2 is like the perfect animated comedy that kids will learn a lot of life lessons from and adults will have a blast with it due to its fantastic humor, lighthearted tone, and emotional moments when the story, requires those. The movie begins with a ridiculously fun and cheesy opening in space, which is later revealed to be Rex playing a video game. And then we see our beloved main characters again. I absolutely love that this film immediately acknowledges the fact that Buzz and Woody are an iconic duo now. But how do you make a sequel to such a blast of a first film? Well, they chose to do something genius. See, there's a yard sale and Woody accidentally ends up there, causing a collector to notice this rare toy. See, this movie reveals that Woody is actually a very valuable collector's item. It's just one of those moments that made me chuckle and think, that's really creative. And the movie is full of moments like these. Buzz Lightyear runs into another Buzz toy, which causes its own host of entertaining problems. We meet Jessie in this movie, who is one of the most layered and interesting characters in the entire franchise, and introducing her was a really good idea. We, as the audience, obviously want Woody to go back home, but when he meets Jessie, we see that there's this whole other side to that drama. Jessie works perfectly to make sure that the audience considers that maybe, just maybe, there's a valid reason for Woody to stay. Then we also have this hilarious clip, kind of mocking the old, poorly made TV shows for kids.
What's that? Jesse and Prospector are trapped in the old abandoned mine, and Prospector just lit a stick of dynamite thinking it was a candle, and now they're about to be blown to smithereens?
There's also lots of fun little references, like the Jurassic Park reference with Rex.
Dinosaur overboard!
Or like all the different Star Wars references. And they even twist what would have happened in Star Wars on its head by making Buzz want to play catch with his evil dad.
Are you coming? No, I have a lot of catching up to do with my dad.
Good throw, son. That's my boy. So long, Buzzy.
Oh, you're a great dad. Yippee! Farewell.
This movie also gives Jessie a real nice backstory that even connects to Woody's situation. Jessie learned the hard way that kids don't play with their toys forever, which Prospector knows. Oh yeah, I love Stinky Pete as a villain. He's a decent twist villain, and they do a lot of fun stuff with him. I do sometimes wonder how Jesse didn't notice the prospector turning on the TV. Like, how did you not see that? It happened right in front of you. Maybe she did see it? Honestly, I have no clue what the movie is trying to say here. The ending battle on the airport conveyor belts is also really awesome. It's so cool to see the toys navigate these environments. And at the end of the day, it all works out. Jessie has a new kid who loves her. Andy has a whole load of new toys to play with. Prospector has a funny ending, which Pixar likes to do with their villains. I guess it's to keep the film more lighthearted, and it's fine. Now, I haven't even talked about the music yet. Yet another score Randy Newman absolutely nailed. I also love the little gag that Wheezy sings a song and his voice at the end completely changes. And it's like a new version of You've Got a Friend in Me, so I guess this means that You've Got a Friend in Me is a canon song in the universe of Toy Story now? I mean, I don't think we're supposed to look that deep into it, but it's still a fun little moment. And then the credits roll. We get a fun little blooper scene as if the toys were actual actors within the movie, and yeah, that's really funny too. They really just nailed the comedy in this movie, and I just couldn't be happier. Overall, just like the first movie, this one doesn't really drag either. It's a lot of fun throughout with really solid pacing. A lot of people put this as their all-time favorite CGI animated movie, and I completely understand why. It's a really lighthearted, fun, and easy-to-follow story with great comedy and heart. I mean, if that's not what you're looking for in an animated film, then I don't know what is. So, of course, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that Toy Story 2 gets a 9.5 out of 10. It does exactly what it wants to do, and it does so practically perfectly, and it has a lot of fun along the way. And the tiny flaws like the prospector literally turning the TV on in front of Jessie aren't enough to bring the movie further down. So, part 2 is probably coming next week. Just make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. I'd love to know what you guys thought of these two movies and which one you liked the best. Be sure to let me know in the comments, and oh yeah, don't forget to leave a like. Alright, see you guys next time.